closer now today than 4 months ago to participating in an Article 5?
Yes, it is. Thanks for having me on your show. With our resolution, House Joint Resolution 3, or HJR 3, has been introduced and is sitting now in committee in the Ohio House Governmental Accountability and Oversight Committee right now.
So it's in committee, and walk us through the process. So what happens from here? Hopefully it'll pass through committee. Does it seem to have support right now at the committee level?
Yes, we do. We had sponsor testimony last week from our lead sponsors, Christina Hagan, a Republican, and Bill Patman, a Democrat. And they provided testimony last week, and we're looking forward to advocate testimony, then opposition, then interested parties. Then they'll have a committee vote. Then the House will get the vote, full House will get the vote. Then it'll go on to the Senate, to committee, and then to the full Senate.
So we could honestly say that there is a measure of bipartisan support for an Article 5?
Absolutely, not only in the legislature, but in our supporters. We have over 14,200 supporters in Ohio, and they're from all political stripes.
So is there a holdup at all? Or is this just part of the process? It takes time because this includes, obviously this is a constitutional process, but it also includes an element of educating folks along the way. Is that why this process seems to be so slow and filled with minutia?
Well, that's true, but it's also a regular part of the process to go through the committee, then to the House and the Senate. And we feel like we do have great support in the committees. In fact, our sponsors, some of our co-sponsors are members of the committee. So we feel cautiously optimistic that this is going to get through in 2015.
Okay, so we need 34 states. That is the magic number to call a convention of the states. We are still at 4, last I checked, which is Alaska, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. Do you think Ohio will be the next, number 5?
Yes, that's right. In fact, we call our work this fall is our drive to be number 5. And we've had an incredible amount of volunteers, and we feel very, like I said, cautiously optimistic that we can get this through. But it's part of the process. It's just we are building support every day. We have over 10,000 people who've signed petitions, and we feel confident that we can get this through.
So these are 10,000 Ohioans who are engaged in the process?
That's correct. 10,000 Ohioans have signed petitions that's gone to their representatives and senators saying we want a convention of the states.
That's great. That's great. You know, and it's some momentum to build on. So is there any kind of focus right now in terms of what kind of amendments folks are talking about in this process? For example, is it a lot of focus right now on a balanced budget amendment?
Well, a balanced budget amendment, which was passed in Ohio for a convention 2 years ago, can be part of our amendment process. Also, limits on the power and jurisdiction of the federal government and fiscal restraints on the federal government are the popular areas for amendments. And we're finding a lot of support for those particular projects across the state.
And I would imagine a lot of support for an amendment to the Constitution that would enact some sort of term limits, possibly on Congress and possibly the United States Supreme Court?
That's correct. Term limits for federal officials is also part of our resolution. And so that can be definitely part of our convention.
You know, I get some pushback on this program when we talk about Article 5. Of course, we hear about a so-called runaway convention. I also hear some folks saying, hey, listen, they're not following the Constitution now. What's the point of putting an amendment in there? And I think that the answer to the runaway convention is it's not going to be a runaway convention unless folks allow it to be a runaway convention. That is the 34 states. They're in charge. The rules are set. They've already been agreed to, and this is part of the process. And as far as not following the Constitution, well, short of pitchforks and torches and Twisted Sister going on the Capitol steps, what other choice do we have?
No, this is constitutional, legal, and civil. So it is it's the process and it's the remedy that our founders and framers of the Constitution gave us. So we're invoking that process.
Okay, real quick, out of time here, but how can folks get involved? Constitution or the Convention of the States Project?
They go to conventionofstates.com and sign the petition, and it will automatically take them to the appropriate state director's attention, and they'll get information as much as they want about the process and the progress of our COS.
All right, Steve, great work. Thank you. Coming up next, Stop the Tape. Bernie